No Christmas truce and no compromise over Ukraine's eastern regions. Russia rejects the Western peace plan's provisions. Will US negotiators convince Vladimir Putin to change his mind? To talk about it and more, we're joined by Daniel Fried, former US ambassador to Poland. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador.
Dobry wieczór. Good evening.
We'll start with something else, though. Poland and Finland will lead EU's eastern flank coalition to enhance the bloc's readiness in case of an armed conflict with Russia. Does this mean, in your opinion, that European countries are increasingly looking for different security opportunities simply outside of NATO?
I would say that European countries are working together to increase Europe's ability to defend itself in any event, no matter what happens with the Trump administration and the United States. This is a good thing. It is a good thing for European countries, particularly countries like Finland and Poland, who are, shall we say, clear-eyed and staunch about Russia's intentions and capabilities. It's good for them to be taking an active role. And doing so increases the odds that we land in a stable place between the United States and Europe. This is more possible if Europe is taking measures like this.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated after the recent talks in Berlin that, let me quote, "It finally looks like we're all on the same team, US, Ukraine and Europe." But the question is here, will it remain so, or is President Donald Trump likely to change his mind again?
Well, I was delighted that Prime Minister Tusk was involved in this meeting. That is the right place for Poland to be. It needs to be in the small group of Europeans working with the Americans, making decisions about Europe's security. That's the right place. His was an optimistic tweet, and of course, Prime Minister Tusk wouldn't be optimistic for no reason. So that's a very good sign that the security arrangements are coming into focus and that they are real. Now, there are two questions. One, will the US back up the Europeans? The larger question is, will Putin accept any of this? And I think I'm fairly confident in saying that he won't. And then the question will be what we do. We will not get Russia to accept security for Ukraine out of the goodness of its heart. They will do so only under duress, under pressure. And the United States and Europe, but especially the United States, have to use the perfectly good leverage which we have to push Russia. Pressure doesn't derail diplomacy. Pressure enables diplomacy. The sooner we learn that lesson, the better.
Mr. Ambassador, are you calling for more sanctions to be imposed on Russia?
I'm calling for pressure across the board. I wouldn't start shouting, I would start acting. The US Congress is preparing several new pieces of sanctions legislation. One was issued today. Perfectly reasonable steps for increasing pressure on Russia's oil exports. This is good. I hope that the European Union can find a way forward with the so-called reparations loan at the European Council later this week. And I hope that the encouraging signs about US-European cooperation for the sake of Ukrainian security are actually realized. If we act in all three areas, economics, sanctions, security for Ukraine, the odds of successful negotiations with the Russians increase because Putin will respond to this pressure.
Talking about security for Ukraine, according to Polish Prime Minister, the US has agreed to use force in case of a Russian attack on Ukraine after, of course, the peace is reached. Now, what do you think can the US do, having already stated that they will not send troops to be stationed there in Ukraine?
Well, I don't know the details of what's being planned, but I've if you assume that we all have to work within the four corners of what Trump has laid out, which is no U.S. troops stationed in Ukraine, there's still plenty of good options. U.S. forward-based aircraft based in Poland, based in Romania, can do quite a bit, especially if combined with European units, air defense units, and other units stationed inside of Ukraine. I can imagine some good scenarios which would cause the Russians to reconsider plans for renewed aggression against Ukraine. Now, we're not there yet. I understand all of the problems and all of the obstacles, but the European leader's statement issued yesterday was stronger than many people expected, and I think the Russian escalation of its demands indicates that they were thrown off by it, so they are resorting to the usual threats, bluster, and escalation. We ought to be prepared to push right past that, not take it seriously, except as a sign of Russian ill will and bad faith, and prepare to face down the Russians, working with the Ukrainians. That's the way to get to a durable peace.
About seriousness, Russia demands security guarantees for itself too. And I'm wondering here, why is Moscow insisting on this? And who could provide Russia with security guarantees in case of a Ukrainian attack?
This is all nonsense. It's very clear what the Russians are driving at. Lavrov said so today. He said that peace in Ukraine depends on dealing with the root causes, the first causes, as he put it. That includes, in his view, rolling back NATO enlargement to its 1997 starting point. This is not serious. This is trolling. He is simply being a provocateur to see how much he can get away with. And I don't see any reason to take this seriously. The Russians are demanding not only Ukraine's surrender, but NATO's surrender and a return to recognizing the Russian Empire in Europe. There is no reason on God's green earth we should take this seriously. We should prepare moves now to show the Russians that we will not be intimidated. I'm not against diplomacy. I'm just against diplomacy from a position of weakness when that's not necessary. We have perfectly good leverage. We shouldn't let it stay lying on the table.
Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, believes that his country should be provided with more American missiles and air defense systems. Well, as you have pointed it already, to put more pressure on Russia. Let me quote Volodymyr Zelensky. I think this is a reasonable request. The logic is clear. If the Americans are ready to give Ukraine security guarantees and enforce strong measures if Putin violates them, then how is that different from asking for guarantees if Putin refuses to end the war? Do you see logic behind it?
The logic of President Zelensky's argument is that if the United States wants Ukraine to do the bulk of the work defending itself, which is the right position, Ukrainians need to take the lead in defending their own country, they can do so more effectively with the best American weapons. And let me add that because of the revolution in military technology we're seeing in the Russo-Ukraine war, we Americans need to be working with the Ukrainians, who have a very good set of experiences with drones and other unmanned vehicles. So we need to be working with the Ukrainians hard. And the more we do to help them, the better able they will be to defend themselves. But they're going to need American backup, and they're going to need European forces. Putin needs to realize that his attempt to shatter the Western alliance has failed. Now, President Trump has given mixed messages, sometimes worse. This is damaging to Trump's own objective of forging a peace in Ukraine and, as he likes to put it, winning. Winning is still possible, but that will require the United States to push back on Russia. Look, let's be serious. Polls already know, and they are right, that Russia will make maximum demands and not retreat from those demands unless it has to. So let's make them retreat from those demands. We're going to have to stare down Putin sooner or later. We might as well do it sooner and from a position of maximum relative strength.
Daniel Fried, former US ambassador to Poland, was our guest this evening. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this analysis.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. And stay with us for more interviews and news here on TVP World.